Welcome to Spiritual Psychology. My name's Renee McKenna. I'm a therapist and healer in San Francisco. And today I want to talk about the power of prayer. Most of us have been deeply affected by the coronavirus outbreak, and I know it's had a profound effect on my life. My kids are out of school for the next 2 weeks. I was at Trader Joe's yesterday doing my share of hoarding, and there were lots of empty shelves. I wanted to get a tri-tip for this weekend. There weren't any there. And sadly, most sadly of all, I had to cancel a trip to London for my Girl Scout troop. About 6 years ago, my second grade daughter asked if she could be a Girl Scout, and so we started a Girl Scout troop. The girls were the high sellers of Girl Scout cookies in the city. They sold about 10,000 boxes of cookies a year for 5 years. We raised a lot of money for the troop and donated a lot of money to local charities, about $13,000 total. We decided very early, as we saw that these were ambitious girls and we lived in a place where we could really support them, that they might be able to do something big. And so we talked about what we might want to do with the money when we ended Girl Scouts, which was going to be in 8th grade. My daughter's in a K-8 school, and I know for myself I wasn't down for doing Girl Scouts for the rest of my life. So anyway, we decided to take a trip to London. And so for the last 5 years, our goal has been to take a trip to London. And we booked the flights. That would be this June, the culmination of all this work. The girls earned enough money to pay for their tickets and to supplement some of the parent chaperones' tickets. We booked the flights. Everybody's getting their passports in order. 2 nights ago, we had to cancel the trip because of coronavirus. And so I feel it. And in times of great change and an unknown future, when things are unsettled, we often feel really powerless. I know for myself, feeling powerless is some of the worst feeling that I can have. And what's happening right now is that most of us are doing whatever we can in the physical world to try to feel like we have some management. Everybody's hoarding toilet paper and filling up their freezers with extra food. I know I went and bought enough nuts and granola for at least the next 4 years because I love my almonds. But working just in the physical world has limitations, and we all know that. It's one of the reasons that the level of angst is so high. We can take actions in the material world, but we often ignore our mental, our emotional, and our spiritual well-being. And this is where prayer and community can be invaluable. You know, we're always in conversation with the universe. Every few seconds, we're breathing in and breathing out. We're eating food and pooping it out, constantly taking in and taking things out. All of the choices that we make in our life are a way that we tell the universe what we want and participate in this unfolding process that we're in. Prayer is a way to make our conversation with the universe conscious and intentional. I've had some really powerful experiences with intentional prayer. Probably one of the most recent ones was after the 2016 election. I stayed up all night watching the election results, and I could feel the angst. I'm a very absorbent person. I could feel the angst of our country, at least the angst of the half that didn't get what they wanted. I was feeling really powerless, and I sat, lit a candle, and started to do some prayer and meditation of my own. It came to me, probably my favorite and most powerful prayer. How can I be helpful? And so I started to pray, how can I be helpful? How can I be helpful to my country? How can I be helpful to my community? How can I be helpful to the people most closely around me? When we're in our own distress, when we bring our awareness to how we might be able to be helpful to someone else, it has 2 effects. First of all, it opens us up to be of service and opens us up to be a channel for the divine, for higher consciousness, for greater good. And when that greater good moves toward other people through us, the great effect of that is that it actually has to go through us. So we get the benefit of that good juju ourselves. It felt productive to ask for clarity, ask for direction. How can I be helpful? Some of you may know this story. So 4 days later, I was on Facebook again, and I saw a posting that said, the Million Woman March in Washington, D.C. on Inauguration Day. And immediately I said, I want to be a part of that. I looked at my calendar. I had nothing on January 21st. And I said, I'm going. I actually booked a plane flight right away. And I started a post on Facebook. I'm going to Washington, D.C. on January 21st. There's this really cool thing happening. A bunch of women are going to get together and march for justice and inclusion and tolerance and peace and love. And within an hour, I had like 50 or 75 posts coming back at me. What's happening? I'm really interested. I want to go. And, I'm in California. And so I started to think, well, is there some kind of a way? I love to organize stuff. So I started to think, is there some kind of a way that I could organize people to go? I started to reach out to people I knew in Washington, D.C. Can we set up places for people to stay? Or, is there any way we can charter planes? And the Facebook conversation continued throughout the day. By the night, it was getting so big, I didn't really know how to manage it. And there were so many people involved and people posting on other people. And at that point, I knew nothing about Facebook. I still am not a very good Facebook person, but I said, I'm going to start a page or a group or something. I didn't even know which one I should do, but a place where people can have this conversation instead of having to go through me. So I started a Facebook group, went to bed. And the next day I woke up and there were 1,000 members in that Facebook group. I was blown away. And as the day progressed, I watched it grow and grow and grow. And I knew something really powerful was happening, that apparently thousands of other women and people had seen this idea of the Million Woman March, which was what it was called at the time. We all had the same thought. I want to be a part of that. And later that afternoon, I got a phone call. I had already tried to reach out to the organizers of this event, and I just knew that they had to be flooded. There was nobody responded back to me, no emails, no messaging back. So I get this phone call. The woman says to me, so you posted a Facebook group and we don't know who you are. Who are you? Are you like a whack job? Or are you for real? And we had this conversation. I told her what my intention was, and she said they were overwhelmed. And at the end of that conversation, she said to me, so would you be the lead in San Francisco for this women's march that we're going to have in January? We need people who are organized and willing to help put this thing together. And I knew at that moment when the woman asked me if I would be lead of Women's March San Francisco, that was the answer to my prayer, how can I be helpful? And I ended up spending the next 6 months, really, being a part of one of the most powerful and profound experiences that I've ever had, which was to be part of Women's March 2017. That experience changed my life. And the powerful experience of the march itself, to be with the goodwill of 100,000 people in San Francisco. It was in the rain. It was at night. And to know I had been a part of that was humbling and profound and really empowering. And it reaffirmed something that I had known and experienced many times in my life, that when we pray openly and earnestly, we get an answer. Prayer is our conversation with God. However we understand God. If that word doesn't work for you, and it doesn't work for lots of people, it doesn't even always work for me, find the word that most describes source, or don't even use a word. It may be your own higher self. It may be the divine, higher consciousness, the great spirit of the universe. I personally pray to the divine feminine, often called the goddess, but even that feels limiting to me. We are all like cells in a great body. We are a part of something much bigger than ourselves. And prayer is one of the ways that we can have direct communication with this larger force that we're included in, that we can have direct contact with the life force itself. So there's a lot of different ways to pray. I'm going to talk about those different ways to pray. But first I want to say, if you haven't prayed in a while, just try it. It's very interesting. I'm a show me the money person. I'm actually not a person of faith. That might sound really stupid, but it's true. I actually still, after all these years, after 30 years of deep personal growth work and intense spiritual practice, I still don't trust. But I can make a decision and I can take action and I can watch it unfold. And I'm still blown away, and it happens all the time. It just happened this week. I had some really serious needs. I'm trying to promote my business, and I have no idea how to do it. And I had kind of come to the edge of all that I could do by myself and feeling stuck. And I started to pray. 2 people totally showed up out of the blue and are exactly the right people to help me with the next thing that I need. The universe wants to help us. We are a part of it. Our survival is intrinsic with the universe. We're a part of it. When we can open up, there's all kinds of information and energy and power and direction we can get to optimize our experience and to really step into the flow of our own evolution. Lots of times I pray still to this day to change my circumstances. I want to change the outside world so that I feel better, because the outside world gives me feelings, so it appears. When I'm just praying to change the external world, I'm really in a place of powerlessness. Certainly, and we're going to talk about some different kinds of prayer, we can absolutely send blessings and send good intentions and take positive action that can change outer circumstances, and I think we are supposed to do that. But the most powerful prayers that I say are actually prayers to change myself. I may be powerless over much of what's happening in the external world, and that can cause me a lot of fear. But I have a lot of power over my internal experience, over my attitudes, my beliefs, my feelings, and my actions. And prayer can help align those internal experiences, those internal intentions and positions, again, to put me in an optimal position, ground me, help me know that I'm doing the best that I can. When I'm grounded and doing the best I can, generally my life circumstances support that, and I can feel it. We have feelings for a reason. Feelings are information. Joy and peace and fulfillment let us know we're in the right path. Pain, suffering, fear let me know that something's wrong, that something needs attention, something needs redirection or readjustment, or I need to pay attention and be careful. But I think the goal is to always be working toward coming back to grounding and centeredness and peace and love. But lots of us want to change the outside, hoping to change the inside. I know I always do that. And I need to be reminded that actually, on the deepest level, the opposite is true. That my work is to change the inside and bring that into the outside so that I can affect positive change and be a constructive force in the world, both for the highest good of myself and for the good of all those that are involved with me. And maybe those who aren't even involved with me. So how are the outer conditions calling me to change? How am I being called to grow? That's always an excellent question when we're in times of difficulty or distress. Life is designed to change us, and the quality of our experience is really important. And so this idea of being in conversation with the universe, what am I in conversation with? Right now, a lot of us are in conversation with the media. We're in conversation with the news. And I'm super sensitive, very absorbent. I'm easily manipulated. Most of us are. And again, we're like cells in this greater body, and we all have semi-permeable membranes, and we take in what's happening outside of us very easily. And we need to be careful about what it is that we're taking into our body. Is it toxic? Is it wisdom? Is it truth? A lot of what's happening now is very fear-based, panic-driven, catastrophic projections about the future. Most of us, if we come really present into our body right now, look at what's happening in our life, look at what's happening with the people around us, we're okay. Can we keep coming back to that place that we're okay? Even for the people who get COVID-19, 97% of them are going to survive. How do we stay grounded in our own life? How do we replenish and renew and feed and nourish ourselves spiritually, emotionally, and mentally in this challenging time? Where things come from is very important to me. Again, I'm kind of an untrusting person. Trust is earned for me. I'm a little bit cynical. I'm from New England. I'm very discerning. The media does not have my highest good in mind. The media is driven by ratings, and it's driven by money, and it's driven actually by sensationalism and getting attention. And those things, greed and attention, don't necessarily serve the highest good. The media isn't saying, how can we be most beneficial to people on a spiritual, emotional, and mental level? Now, maybe on some level, people think that they're keeping them safe, and information certainly is a way that helps us to make choices in our life. But I want to source energy. I want to source information from places that I really can trust. And prayer is a place that we can trust. Sourcing wisdom and guidance from universal source has to be included in the gathering of information these days, or else everybody's going to go crazy. So how do we pray? There's a ton of different ways to pray. On a basic level, we could say you can pray out loud and use your voice, or you can chant. You can pray quietly within mental, emotional, spiritual prayer quietly within yourself, or you can do meditation and contemplation. Those are all kind of the general forms of prayer, and I encourage people to experiment with those. Praying out loud, if you've never done it, is actually really different than just praying in yourself. I like the idea of prayer and meditation, again, as this conversation of listening and communicating. So prayer is talking to God, and meditation or contemplation is listening to God. And I actually do best. I'm a really conversational person. So I do best with kind of a mixture of both. I often pray with a notebook and a pen. I like to light a candle. I also like to light some incense or some sage because I have a really sensitive sense of smell. And having a beautiful smell really kind of relaxes me into my body. I also like the scent of lavender. I have a lot of essential oil lavender that I use. I mix it with olive oil. I actually use it as my body cream these days. So I tend to do a little bit of both, talking and listening. Sometimes I talk out loud. Sometimes it's just thinking. Lots of times it's writing. I like to write my prayers down. I don't know if any of you ever listened to the book The Help, but Aibileen, the amazing main character, she used to write her prayers, and they were really powerful. And I find it really to be a very powerful practice to bring the non-physical into the physical world. And writing is one of the easiest ways to do that, to bring my ideas and my thoughts and my dreams and hopes and desires and wishes, and to put them on paper actually brings them into the material world. That can be one of the first powerful steps in manifesting stuff. Saying things out loud can also be a part of that, of manifesting in the material world. Sometimes if we just keep things in our head, there's not really a connection made. Ritual, a lot of spiritual and religious ritual is about that. It's about taking the non-physical, bringing it into the physical world, lighting a candle. I do that at my house. My daughter goes to a Catholic school, lighting a candle in church. People like to go to the beach, write things in the sand. There's a lot of different things you can do. Whatever you can do, find little talisman that work for you. Ritual is a really powerful way to have this conversation with higher consciousness. I encourage you to experiment with different ways of having this conversation, with ritual, using your voice, with writing. But there's lots of different ways to pray within that. So one of the most powerful types of prayer is prayer of gratitude and thanksgiving. To actually take time and express gratitude for all of the abundance, for all of the gifts that we have in our life right now, for what's real. Prayers of thanksgiving actually have a magnetic effect of drawing more goodness to us, because like tends to be drawn to like, and when we're grateful and open and appreciative, then we're often opening up the door to receive even more goodness in our life. There's prayers of forgiveness, which is to extend our goodwill to those who have harmed us, to forgive others, to forgive institutions, to forgive our country, to forgive anything that we hold anger or resentment or hurt or harm or fear around. Now, forgiveness is a complicated process, and we often can't go from being harmed right to forgiveness, but forgiveness is an incredible gift that we can give ourselves of peace and compassion and really being able to let go of the past and be present. There's prayers of blessing, when we send good wishes to others, praying for others to get what they need or get what they want or to get well, sending our blessings, sending our good energy. I often hold my hands up and feel like I'm emanating light out of my hands if I'm praying for another person, sending them my love or trying to be a conduit for divine providence for others. Again, we are all connected, and prayers for goodwill for others are very powerful. Aside from the fact that it really feels good to pray for others, get out of our own self, I think the power of prayer for others is under-recognized. There's prayers of dedication, when we offer something as sacred. I can dedicate actions that I'm taking, like I can dedicate a yoga practice, I can dedicate a meal, I can dedicate physical objects to kind of send the blessing into the object or the action that I'm taking as a dedication either to an individual person or to the divine itself. So this is a way to almost do like physical blessings. This is a way to take blessings and bring it kind of like a ritual into the physical world. So if I dedicate a yoga practice to a friend of mine that's sick, then I'm taking my positive action and I'm trying to direct it toward that person. Often when I make artwork, I'll put blessings into it, trying to make it like a portal of light for others so that when they connect with that artwork, they get to connect with the source that I connected with when I was making that artwork. So prayers of dedication is a really interesting thing to think about, dedicating a practice or an action or a physical object to a higher purpose. We can say given prayers, prayers that have been long used by others. Most religions have those prayers. There are fabulous Buddhist prayers, Christian prayers. I love the Serenity Prayer. Chanting is a form of prayer, Om Mani Padme Om. Often those prayers said out loud are really powerful. Saying them in unison with others, that's what people often do at church, can be a really powerful experience. I've actually modified the words of the Hail Mary because I don't like the Our Sinners part and and I like to say the Hail Mary out loud because that's an aspect of the divine feminine that I find really accessible. Given prayers are often said in community, and communal prayer, again, this idea of praying together is really powerful. It's talked about in the Bible when two or more are gathered together. And I know for myself, when people pray together with the same intention, it magnifies exponentially the power of those prayers. So I would encourage you at this time particularly to consider praying with your family, praying with your friends, and praying with those that you come together with. You don't have to be in the same place physically to pray together. You can pray together on the phone. You can have prayer agreements over text or in social media. The power of communal prayer, knowing that others are holding us in their heart or that we're working together, the strength in numbers is really healing and unifying and supportive. Prayers for the sick, the dying, or the dead. To pray for the spirit of those who are suffering or who have passed. You may do that with intention or without intention, but this is another level of sending blessings. Blessings to the sick, blessings to the dying, blessings to those who have already passed. To find the peace, to find the connection, to find the serenity of their soul. Very powerful prayers. Prayers for blessings and needs for ourselves. I talked a little bit earlier about praying about a specific need. It's totally fine to ask for what you need. We're supposed to do that. The answer isn't always yes. It may come in a different way than we expect. And that's some of our work, is to be able, in this conversation, ask for what we need and see what comes. And how does that inform us about the next actions that we need to take? Absolutely important to be clear about what our needs are and to ask for help. Ask to be able to receive. I like the idea that God won't do for us what we can do for ourselves. We need to be aware that if we don't get what we think we want, that's information. Again, how are we being called to grow? Sometimes, I know for myself, if I got everything I ever prayed for, I'd be in a lot of trouble right now. So, praying for what we need, praying for the needs of others, praying for our own blessings, praying for peace, praying for fear to be removed. We can ask for things to be given to us. We can also ask for things to be taken away. Prayers for blocks to be removed. Prayers for the power to be able to move forward and face our fears or do difficult things. Very powerful. And my favorite prayer, the prayer to be of service. How can I be helpful? Grant me knowledge of divine will for me and the power to carry that out. Show me what's my highest good or my highest purpose, and grant me the energy and the resources I need to follow through and bring that into the world for the benefit of myself and the benefit of others. How can I be helpful? I find that to be the most gratifying and the shortcut to actually feeling better right away. Generally, I don't solve my own problems. Things tend to work out in ways different than what I would have orchestrated. I always need to take constructive action, and I need to let go of the result. And when I'm in service, certainly I need to show up and do what I need to do for myself. And then when I put myself in service, things tend to work out. I heard a man say once at this workshop I was at, if a house was a metaphor for my life, I've been doing all this work on the porch, trying to fix my stairs and do all this work to reconstruct my life. And when I went into the house, when I went deeper into my life, the kitchen was remodeled and I didn't even know that was happening. And that's happened for me over and over again, where I'm working on one thing in my life and a whole other thing unfolds. Often when I'm of service, that is kind of an exponential process that's happening. So it's come to me out of my prayers of how can I be helpful in this time right now, that I'm going to do some free webinars and Facebook Lives to help people manage their anxiety. And those should be coming out in the next few weeks. There are lots of free resources available on my website at reneemckenna.com. If you click the drop down for Inner Journeys, those are the work that actually goes with my book, Allies and Demons, Working with Spirit for Power and Healing. Feel free to listen to those or do those inner journeys. They're really profound and will produce powerful change in your life. They have for me. If you want to set up a session, you can shoot me an email at info@reneemckenna.com. Blessings on your path until we meet again.